You don't forget the sound of someone snapping their fingers at a flight attendant like they're calling a dog. And you really don't forget it when they're pointing at your mom's first-class seat like it already belongs to them. That was the moment right there at 30,000 feet when I realized this wasn't just another entitled traveler with a bad attitude. This was a full-blown power play, the kind of drama you usually only see on reality TV, except this time, my mom was at the center of it. We were flying out for my mom's long overdue break, her first real vacation in, honestly, I don't even remember. She's the kind of person who apologizes when someone else bumps into her, the kind of person who puts everyone else first so much she barely remembers what first feels like for herself. So when she surprised me by booking first class for both of us, I actually laughed and asked if she'd robbed a bank. She didn't even crack a smile. She just said, "I want one trip where I don't feel guilty for resting." That hit me harder than I expected. My mom spent her life carrying everyone Dad left years ago. My younger siblings still treat her like their personal 24/7 help desk, and she works double shifts without ever complaining. First class wasn't extra, it was medicine. So, yeah, we boarded early, settled in, and for the first time in forever, I watched my mom's shoulders drop just a little. She touched the seat controls like she didn't trust them, and when the attendant offered her sparkling water, she actually looked at me like she was asking permission to enjoy it. And then right in that soft, quiet moment, the woman appeared. You know the type. Hair that's never met humidity, a tote bag large enough to be registered as a weapon, and a face already annoyed at the concept of other humans. She was probably mid-50s, dressed for a business casual court hearing, and she marched into first class with two people trailing behind her, both about her age, both dragging their carry-ons like they were being forced into some kind of punishment. She stopped right beside us and stared at my mom's seat, then at my mom, then at the seat number, then back at my mom like my mom had somehow snuck onto the plane through a vent in the ceiling. My mom gave her a polite hi. The woman didn't answer. She just leaned in, squinted at the little screen on the armrest, and said loud enough for the row behind us to hear, "Yeah, no, this isn't right." I blinked. "What?" She finally looked at me like I'd interrupted her from something important. "These seats. She said they're supposed to be together." My mom's smile faded a little, but she stayed calm. "They are. My son and I are together." The woman's nostrils flared like I'd insulted her ancestors. "Not you, us." She gestured behind her like she had a royal entourage. And then came the first mini twist. She pulls out her phone, shoves it at my mom. Not the flight attendant, not a gate agent, my mom. Like she's the manager of the plane, and goes, "See, I have friends. We're traveling together. We need first class. My friends have anxiety." One of the friends did a tiny helpless shrug like, "Please don't involve me in this." My mom opened her mouth and shut it. I could see she wanted to say something kind, something apologetic, because that's her default, even when someone's being ridiculous. So I stepped in. "Ma'am, those are our assigned seats." The woman smiled, but it was that icy, smiling without using your eyes kind of smile. "Sweetie, I'm not asking. I'm explaining what's going to happen." My mom stiffened. Her shoulders went back up, just like that stress flipping on like a switch. Right then the flight attendant appeared, all cheerful voice and professional smile. "Hi, can I help you find your seat?" The woman snapped her fingers. Actually snapped like the attendant was late bringing her a menu. "Yes, you can. These seats need to be reassigned. My friends and I should be in first class together. I don't understand why random people are sitting here." Random people. My mom blinked like she'd been slapped. The color drained from her face, hurt first, then embarrassment, then that old instinct to shrink. The attendant's smile stayed but got tighter. "Ma'am, seats are assigned. If you have a seating issue, I can check your boarding pass." The woman didn't hand it over. She just crossed her arms. "No, you can check theirs because my friends have a medical situation and you're not going to separate us." Second mini twist. The medical situation was delivered in that tone that says, "Don't you dare ask follow-up questions." My mom quietly reached for her bag, already preparing to move because she always does, because peace matters more to her than fairness. Under the blanket, I gently grabbed her wrist, a little squeeze. "Don't. Not this time." The attendant repeated, still calm, "I'll need to see your boarding pass." The woman scoffed. "Unbelievable." You people always make this difficult. This is why I hate flying with. And then she caught herself, like she was about to say something that would really get her in trouble, pivoted hard. Look, my friends are good people. They deserve comfort. And she pointed at my mom. She looks like she'd be fine back there. My mom's eyes got glossy for a second. She forced a smile that wasn't real. It's okay, she whispered. I cut in firm but controlled. It's not okay. She paid for this. The woman turned all sharp angles and attitude. Excuse me, do you know who I am? I almost laughed. Of course she said it. No, and I don't think the plane cares. The attendant took a step closer, voice lowering into that customer service warning register. Ma'am, you need to take your assigned seat so we can close the cabin door. That should have been the end. It wasn't. The woman leaned toward the attendant and said loud and proud, If you don't fix this, I'm filing a complaint with the airline and the airport authority. I'm on an HOA board. I know how this works. Third mini twist, she really thought being on an HOA board meant something on a plane. People around us started openly watching. A man across the aisle paused mid-sip. Someone behind us lowered their headphones. The vibe shifted from annoying delay to, oh wow, she's really doing this. The attendant nodded like she'd made a decision. Okay, I'm going to resolve this. The woman smirked, confident, already victorious. She looked at my mom and said, Don't worry, you'll survive an economy. My mom's hands were trembling. Mine were clenched. The attendant walked away toward the front. And then the most shocking move yet. The woman slid into the seat directly in front of my mom, turned to her friends and said, Just stand here, they'll move them in a second. Like we were furniture, like the decision was already made. My mom whispered, barely audible, Maybe we should just... I shook my head. No. Sit. Breathe. Something told me the crew wasn't walking away to fix it the way Karen thought. When the attendant came back, she wasn't alone. She brought the lead crew member, and the energy in first class changed instantly. No more cheerful tones. This was the voice you hear when someone's crossed an invisible line and doesn't know it yet. Ma'am, the lead attendant said, calm but firm, you need to stand up and move to your assigned seat immediately. Karen laughed, actually laughed. Oh, good, she said, waving a hand. You brought backup. That'll make this faster. Just move them so my friends can sit. One of her friends found the floor very interesting. The other just stared straight ahead like she wanted to disappear into the seat. The lead attendant didn't raise her voice. That somehow made it worse. Those passengers are in their assigned first-class seats. You are not. Karen's smile twitched. There's been a misunderstanding. No, there hasn't. You could feel tension ripple through the cabin. My mom sat perfectly still, hands folded in her lap like she was trying not to exist. I hated that part the most. Not Karen's voice, not the entitlement, but how small my mom looked after just 20 peaceful minutes. Karen leaned back in the seat she'd stolen. Listen, my friends and I were separated because of a booking error. We're not sitting in basic economy. I didn't pay all this money to be treated like this. The lead attendant tilted her head. You paid for 3 basic economy tickets. That was the first real crack. Karen's eyes widened. For half a second, then she recovered. That's not what matters. What matters is customer service. Good customer service fixes mistakes. There was no mistake, the attendant replied. You selected those seats. Karen's voice rose. I selected them because there were no first-class seats left. Exactly. People around us started murmuring. Someone whispered, oh, wow. Another passenger shook his head openly. Karen noticed. She squared her shoulders, switched tactics. My friend here, she said, grabbing one woman's arm without warning, has severe anxiety. She can't sit in cramped spaces. Are you really going to discriminate against a medical condition? The friend froze, wide-eyed. I didn't say. The lead attendant cut in smooth. If there is a medical need, we can involve our accessibility team. That does not include removing other passengers from paid seats. Karen slammed her palm on the armrest. Unbelievable. This airline has gone downhill. I know how to escalate this. And then she turned straight at my mom. You, she snapped, you don't need this seat. Look at you. You're fine. You should do the decent thing and move. My mom's lips parted. No sound. Her eyes filled just enough to make it obvious to anyone watching. Something inside me snapped. She worked 60-hour weeks for 20 years. She paid for this seat. You don't get to decide what she deserves. Karen scoffed. Drama. This generation is so emotional. The lead attendant stepped between us, a little protective. Ma'am, this conversation is over. You will stand up now. Karen crossed her arms. No. That single word sucked the air out of the cabin. No, the attendant repeated. No, Karen said louder. I'm not moving until this is handled properly. Call whoever you need to call. Minnie Twist. The attendant nodded. Okay. Karen smirked, thinking she'd won. The attendant turned away, not toward the cockpit like Karen expected, but toward the phone by the galley. She spoke quietly. I didn't catch the words, but I saw Karen's confidence waver as the minutes passed. Her friends shifted, whispering, Maybe we should just go sit down. Karen hissed, Do not sit. This is about principle. Passengers were staring. Phones weren't out. Airplanes don't play with that, but every eye was locked in. This wasn't private anymore. It was a spectacle. The captain's voice crackled over the intercom. Ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate your patience. We're resolving a seating issue. Karen beamed like the announcement was proof she mattered. The lead attendant returned. Ma'am, you have two choices. You can move to your assigned seat now, or you can be removed from the aircraft. Gasps. Actual gasps. Karen shot to her feet. You would kick me off this plane. Yes, the attendant replied for refusing crew instructions. Karen looked around, searching for support. None came. Her friends stared at her, panicked. The audience she'd tried to control wasn't on her side. She pointed at my mom. You... All this over her? The lead attendant didn't even glance at my mom. This is over your behavior. Karen's face flushed. Fine, I'll move, but I want compensation. I want names. I want a full report. Of course, the attendant said pleasant. Follow me. Karen grabbed her bag, muttering about lawsuits and disrespect. As she walked past my mom, she leaned in, whispered, Enjoy it while it lasts. I thought that was the end. It wasn't, because instead of stopping at the economy section, the crew guided Karen and her friends past it all the way to the very back of the plane. Karen stopped walking when she realized where they were leading her. No, she said, planting her feet in the aisle. That's not my row. The lead attendant didn't miss a beat. It is now. The cabin was silent except for the hum of the plane. Everyone could see the narrow seats, the last row right in front of the bathroom. The exact opposite of first class. The exact opposite of what Karen thought she deserved. Her friends looked horrified. Wait, one whispered, We're back here? Karen spun. This is ridiculous. You said I could move to my assigned seat. Yes, the attendant replied, and due to your behavior, your assigned seats have been changed. Karen laughed again, but this time it cracked. You can't do that. We can, the attendant said. And we did. Then came the real twist, the part Karen never expected. Ma'am, the attendant continued loud enough for nearby passengers to hear you were flagged during boarding because you attempted to pressure another passenger to surrender a paid first-class seat. That violates our conduct policy. Karen's face drained of color. And then, this is not your first incident. A ripple went through the cabin. My eyebrows shot up. My mom looked confused. Karen stammered, That's not... You attempted the same behavior on your last flight, the attendant said evenly. It's documented. Today confirmed a pattern. Her friends stared at her, not with loyalty, but betrayal. You said this never happened before, one whispered. Karen ignored her. I want to speak to the captain. You won't. You'll take your seat, or you'll be removed entirely. For the first time since this started, Karen had nothing to say. She slumped into the middle of the last row, crushed between her friend's knees, jammed against the seat in front. One of her friends muttered, I can't believe this. Not at Karen, at the crew. As the attendant turned to leave, Karen called out weak and bitter, This isn't over. The attendant paused, glanced back, and said something I'll never forget. It is for today. She walked back up the aisle, past economy, past comfort, plus back to first class. Back to us. I'm very sorry about that, she said to my mom, voice gentle again. Thank you for your patience. My mom nodded, still stunned. Thank you. The attendant leaned in. For the record, you did nothing wrong. As she walked away, the man across the aisle gave my mom a thumbs up. Someone behind us whispered, "Good for you." The cabin relaxed like a breath finally released. My mom sat quietly for a moment. Then she exhaled and laughed soft and disbelieving. I thought I was going to cry. I squeezed her hand. "You almost did, but I didn't," she said. I stayed. She reached for the sparkling water again, this time without hesitation. When the plane landed, we passed Karen on the way out. She wouldn't meet anyone's eyes. Her hair was messy, her confidence gone. One of her friends walked several steps ahead of her. As we stepped into the jet bridge, my mom slowed, looked back at the plane, and said something small but powerful. I think that was the first time I didn't give something up just to keep the peace. I smiled. "First class lesson," I said. And this time she smiled back. So what did we really learn at 30,000 feet? That sometimes the people who shout the loudest about fairness are the first to demand special treatment. That dignity is worth defending, even when it's easier to shrink. That justice, when it shows up, doesn't always look like a courtroom or a TV judge. Sometimes it's a quiet seat in the sun, a sparkling water you finally reach for, or a small smile after a hard-fought win. Let me ask you, where's the line between standing up for yourself and making peace? Was the crew right to put Karen in the back row, or was it too much? Have you ever watched someone get exactly what they deserve, and did it feel as good as you expected? Share your thoughts in the comments. Was this justice karma or something else? And if you've ever had your own run-in with entitlement or stood up for someone you love, I want to hear your story. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell for more real-life justice where sometimes the good guys actually win.